Okay, Torah concept. The New Testament, rejoice in the suffering for Mashiach, for Christ. So this is one of the most theologically rich examples in the New Testament narrative. The Torah never commands rejoicing in suffering, yet it repeatedly frames suffering as the arena in which God's covenant purpose advances, which is exactly the logic Peter uses when he says to believers, share in Christ's suffering so that you may rejoice with exceeding joy at his revelation. So the Torah parallels with note 1, Joseph's suffering as participation in God's redemptive work in Genesis 37 to chapter 50. Joseph's suffering is not merely endured, it becomes the instrument of God's saving plan for Israel. 2, the Exodus pattern, suffering, deliverance, joy, Exodus 1 through 15. Israel's oppressed in Egypt is the crucible in which God's redemptive power is displayed. 3, the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. Obedience under extreme trial leads to covenant blessing in Genesis chapter 22. While not rejoicing text, the Akedah is the Torah's clearest example of righteous obedience under severe trial and a father offering his beloved son. Again, this is a Christological pattern. 4, wilderness suffering as God's refining and covenant forming work. Exodus 16 to 17, Numbers 11 to 21, and Deuteronomy chapter 8, wilderness journey in the hardship that Israel faced. 5, Moshe's personal suffering for the people, Exodus 32, Numbers 11 to 14, and Deuteronomy 9 to 10. Now, the context is as suffering leads to exaltation, suffering precedes joyful deliverance. The Exodus, the Red Sea, the song after the Red Sea, etc. are all examples. The core insight here is that the Torah never says rejoicing in suffering, but it establishes the redemptive framework, the pattern that Peter later applies, that suffering and then participating in God's saving work and his future joy. Joseph, Moshe, the Exodus, Akedah, Abraham, and the wilderness all form this theological structure. This is how Peter taught Torah in the New Testament. The Torah has not passed away.